The 17th century was marked by a period of slave trade and oppression of enslaved black Americans in the U.S. Therefore, many of them sought to achieve freedom and liberty from their bondage. President Abraham Lincoln's issuing of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862 enabled several 100,000 slaves to participate in the American Civil War. Although it would be almost 2.5 years later on the day now known as Juneteenth when slavery became outlawed in the state of Texas. In this video, I will discuss the origin, history, and significance of Juneteenth. Let's get into it.
But if you think the battle's won, think again. The fact is, for each one we reach, there's one we can't. And if we can't reach them, chances are nobody can. Because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
The holiday of Juneteenth was born on June 19, 1865, to honor the end of slavery in Texas, the American civil unrest, and to celebrate African American freedom. For several hundred years, African Americans had been exposed to slavery in the United States. The 17th and 18th centuries were marked with the slave trade. Black Americans would be subjected to various types of servitude. They would be mistreated by their slave owners by being assaulted, working without food, given hard jobs, etc. They desperately wanted to achieve freedom and equality for themselves. President Lincoln's issuing of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862 enabled several 100,000 previously enslaved African Americans to join the Union troops in the Civil War. With their support, the Union was able to defeat the Confederate soldiers and effectively end the Civil War. Now, due to Texas being one of the most remote slave states with a low presence of Union troops, the enslavement of African Americans still occurred, and enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation was extremely inconsistent in many areas of the state. That all changed on June 19, 1865, when Union Army General Gordon Granger arrived at Galveston Island with 2,000 federal troops to occupy Texas on behalf of the federal government. While standing on the balcony of Galveston's Ashton Villa, Granger read aloud the contents of General Order No. 3, announcing the total emancipation of those held as slaves. Now, to quote from General Order No. 3, it stated, and I quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere." End quote. Although this was a huge milestone, it is noted that the states of Delaware and Kentucky still openly practiced slavery until the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America on December 6, 1865, which abolished non-penal slavery. Nevertheless, previously enslaved Black Americans celebrated immediately after General Granger's announcement. Early celebrations of Juneteenth occurred as early as 1866 as church-driven gatherings in multiple communities in Texas. During that time, Juneteenth was known as Jubilee Day. These gatherings were utilized by freedmen to educate the emancipated Black Americans on the U.S. voting process. There were several attempts by previous slave owners to prevent the annual celebration of Jubilee Day by barring them from various public facilities, such as public parks, due to segregation. Determined to celebrate this historic day, Black Americans came together and pooled their resources and funds and utilized these resources to purchase plots of land to celebrate. For example, in 1867, Jubilee Day was celebrated in Austin, Texas, and it received support from the Freedmen's Bureau. Within that same year, numerous Black leaders reportedly raised $1,000 to purchase 10 acres of land. That land today is now known as Houston's Emancipation Park. Around the 1890s, Jubilee Day became known as Juneteenth. Celebrations of the day declined throughout the early 1900s due to several factors. There was the Great Depression, World War I as well as World War II, and the implementation of Jim Crow laws and heightened racial tensions, and by the 1960s the holiday became overshadowed by the Civil Rights Movement. Celebration of Juneteenth was revitalized with renewed vigor in the 1970s, and in 1980, Juneteenth became a holiday in Texas. To be exact, it became a holiday on January 1st, 1980 in the state of Texas. From the 1980s to the early 2000s, several other states followed in Texas' footsteps with recognizing Juneteenth as an official holiday. In 2019, Tom Wolf, the governor of Pennsylvania, through CNN reported that the state had become the latest to join in the Juneteenth celebrations. Although the holiday was declared in Texas, many U.S. states have embraced the idea of commemorating the end of slavery and Black Americans' oppression in America. Pennsylvania became the 46th state to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday. The District of Columbia has also joined in the celebration. Therefore, it is only Hawaii, Montana, South Dakota, and North Dakota that do not observe the holiday in the United States of America. Now, according to Wikipedia, in 1996, the first piece of legislation to recognize Juneteenth Independence Day was introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives, sponsored by Barbara Rose Carlins. In 1997, Congress recognized the day through Senate Joint Resolution 11 and House Joint Resolution 56. In 2013, the U.S. Senate passed Senate Resolution 175, acknowledging Lula Briggs Galloway, the late president of the National Association of Juneteenth Lineage, who successfully worked to bring national recognition to Juneteenth Independence Day, and the continued leadership of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. Currently, activists are pushing Congress to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday. Organizations such as the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation are seeking congressional designation of Juneteenth as a national day of observance. This year, in 2020, state governors of Virginia and New York signed an executive order recognizing Juneteenth as a paid day of leave for state employees. It is no doubt that Juneteenth has influenced the history of the American community. It is significant in Americans' history for many reasons. Juneteenth attracts an audience primarily from African Americans. However, other citizens are more than welcome to join in on the celebrations. Just like any other celebration, it is marked with gatherings, picnics, parties among families and friends, significant activities, practices, and events that bring Black people together and foster a climate of state and national unity to celebrate a rich culture and history. In the United States, people hold prayers for the nation and leaders give political, motivational, and religious speeches that are purposed to bring unity and equality to all people. Community and national leaders discourage citizens from practicing unjust and unfair deals that may bring discrimination and a lack of freedom towards people of color. History does have a potential to repeat itself, and thus, in many parts of the U.S. during the celebration, Black youth and other ethnic groups are educated on slavery and urged to treat all people equally. Again, political leaders offer speeches to unite the people and advocate for peace and freedom. Additionally, African American art and culture and the history of the United States are recognized on this day. The process of honoring the day has significantly changed to cater to the needs of the current generation. For instance, when General Granger declared the Black Americans Independence Day, the celebration will majorly be gatherings of political importance where politicians and leaders would spend the day explaining to the freed slaves about voting rights and rules. As time has gone on, Juneteenth has taken a different focus aimed at celebrating African American culture and heritage. Juneteenth is celebrated by all forms of government and serves as a good method of bringing citizens together. The holiday is characterized by rich historical and current culture that should be preserved, taught, and passed from one generation to another. It is strongly encouraged to educate Black youth on the elements that led to slavery, the impacts of the African slave trade, and events that led to the abolishment of the practice on this day. I personally believe that the most effective method of preserving history is by ensuring that it is taught in the proper educational facilities and that people honor and recognize the important events and days such as Juneteenth. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, I truly appreciate you and thank you so much for rocking with me. Now, to conclude, Juneteenth is an American holiday that is celebrated to mark the end of slavery in the United States. General Granger led thousands of state military officials and troops to Galveston, Texas to declare an end to the Civil War and grant freedom for Black Americans. The date was declared a holiday in 1980, and even though it would initially be held in Texas, it later spread to other American states. Hopefully, it receives national recognition as a federal holiday. Juneteenth is a significant day in the history of America because it established the foundations for the realization of equality and a reduction in the rates of discrimination amongst people of color. It is a constant reminder to the American people of the achievements that have been made by African American people over the years. It enables everyone to recognize the physical, emotional, and mental impact of slavery, segregation, and discrimination against Black Americans and comprehend the need for a radical change in the society of America. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this video and tell me, what does Juneteenth mean to you? And furthermore, how do you celebrate Juneteenth? And if you don't celebrate Juneteenth, please let me know why. I like to foster a healthy conversation from both sides down in my comment section. Once again, thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. All right, peace, family.